I have received notice from the following senators that they propose to raise the following matters. Senator Moloney, the need for the Minister for the Environment, Community and Local Government to clarify if funding will be made available for the health and disability groups who were excluded from the 2014 support scheme for national organisations administered by Pobble on behalf of his department and who were given bridging funding which will expire in June. Senator Fidel Mahealy-Eames, the need for the Minister for the Environment, Community and Local Government to designate the municipal district of Connemara, County Galway as a separate stand-alone lot under the Social Inclusion Programme and to award social inclusion funding accordingly. Senator Terry Leyden, need for the Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport to explain why public service vehicles rather than taxis are not allowed to use bus lanes. Senator Dennis Landy, the need for the Minister for Communications, Energy and Natural Resources to outline the current status of the review being undertaken by the independent expert panel under the chairmanship of Mrs Catherine McGuinness Air Grid proposals for the Grid Link and Grid West projects. Senator Colin Burke, the need for the Minister for Health to implement in full Section 9 of the Intoxicating Liquor Act 2008, which provides that mixed trading outlets would be required to segregate the sale of alcohol from the sale of other goods. Senator Thomas Byrne, the need for the Minister for Justice and Equality to ensure the provision of the more Gardaí and resources in the Garda Station in Julie, County Meath. Senator Paul Bradford, the need for the Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine to provide a projection on the number of farming families which will continue in business over the next 10 to 20 years period, and if he has any particular policy proposals to maximise these numbers. Senator Lorraine Higgins, the need for the Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport to review the decision in the specific improvement grant allocation for roads and road safety measures. Senator Gillian Van Turnout, the need for the Minister of State at the Department of Justice and Equality with responsibility for disability, older people, equality and mental health to explain the lengthy delay in the progress of the Assisted Decision-Making Capacity Bill 2013 in light of the launch today, 1st of April, of Inclusion Ireland's Fool Me Once campaign to repeal the Lunacy Regulation Ireland Act 1871. I regard the matters raised by Senators Moloney, Healy-Eames, Leyden, Landy, Burke, Byrne, Bradford and Higgins as suitable for discussion. I have selected Senators Moloney, Healy-Eames, Leyden and Landy, and they will be taken now. Senators Burke, Byrne, Bradford and Higgins may give notice on another day of the matter they wish to raise. I regret I have had to rule out of order the matter raised by Senator Van Turnout, as the Minister has no official responsibility in this matter. So, Senator Moloney, sorry for the false start.
No problem, Alaska Hirlet. Thank you. Minister, thank you for coming in to take my debate. This is a scheme to support national organisation. This scheme provided multi-annual funding to such national organisations toward core costs associated with the provision of services. Priority is given under the scheme to supporting national organisations which provide coalface services to disadvantaged target groups. As you will be aware, in summer 2014, 23 health and disability organisations were excluded from this scheme, and you will also be aware that a 12-month bridging funding was provided by Minister Kelly to help these organisations, but unfortunately this funding will end in June. These organisations are now in a limbo as they cannot get confirmation from your department as to whether or not there will be continuation of funding after June 2015. They were told in January by officials from the department they would know by the end of March, but this information has not been forthcoming. One may wonder why funding for health and disability organisations comes under the Department of the Environment, but not everything about disability is a health issue. Many people, having been diagnosed with a disability, are well able to contribute and participate in community involvement. This funding is used to support people to live a full life as possible and to continue their involvement in the community. It also supports the families of those diagnosed with a disability. This funding is vital for the continuation of these support groups, and last year the Minister provided €1.28 million to avoid an adverse impact on these organisations. The work these organisations carry out is invaluable. Organisations like the Disability Federation of Ireland and the Neurological Alliance of Ireland, to name but a few, which are the umbrella support organisations for many groups such as MS, stroke victims, dementia, the list goes on. As laid down in the criteria, SSNO is a key element of the State's commitment and support for the role of the sector in delivering services to enhance the quality of life of many people in Irish society and contributing to the creation of a vibrant and civil society. And that is exactly what these organisations are doing. Similar to the Vision for Change in Mental Health, these organisations are endeavouring to get people with a disability to move from residential care to community settings whereby they can integrate with the community and achieve independence. Our neurological organisations alone, which is 12 of the 23 organisations affected, they are providing critical frontline services and support to over 700,000 people affected by neurological conditions such as stroke, MS and acquired brain injury. And by being excluded from the SSNO means a loss of income of 600,000, which will result in critical services such as counselling, helpline support and home support, which are the vital services which enables and empowers people to live in their home and in their community. The impact of the withdrawal of the SSNO funding will result in potential job losses, i.e. 8 full-time and 11 part-time, and 2 organisations may close their door. So, Minister, I would ask that you would clarify the position of funding for these organisations, or more importantly, confirm the continuation of the funding. Thank you.
Margaret and Tara.
Thank you, I am pleased to have an opportunity to address the Seanad on the funding scheme to support national organisations in the community and voluntary sector, and I would indeed like to thank the Senator for raising this very important issue. This scheme aims to provide multi-annual funding to national organisations towards core costs associated with the provision of services. During 2013, a review of the scheme was undertaken. This found that while the scheme had fulfilled its main objective of providing multi-annual funding to national organisations towards core costs associated with the provision of services, there was a need for the organisations funded under the scheme to demonstrate clearly the added value of the work proposed. A new scheme to support national organisations was advertised for applications early last year. My department requested Pobal to undertake an assessment of the applications received, given that organisations' significant experience and expertise of both the design of assessment criteria and the completion of assessment functions. In this context, Pobal put in place a dedicated team to deal with any inquiries from applicants and to provide detailed feedback. Furthermore, an appeals process was put in place, on foot of which Pobal submitted a report which is currently considering. Some 157 applications were received by Pobal. 55 applications were approved for funding for the 2-year period from the 1st of July 2014 to the 30th of June 2016. In excess of £8 million is being provided by my department over the 2-year period, representing an increase in funding of more than 10% per annum compared to the previous scheme. The Government is very mindful of the very valuable work undertaken by national organisations in the community and voluntary sector. While it was known that the existing scheme was ending on the 30th of June 2014 and applications were sought for the new scheme with no guarantee of continued funding, it is clear that organisations had become increasingly dependent on this funding. Against this background, my colleague Minister Kelly announced on the 18th of July 2014 the allocation of bridging funding of £1.4 million to a number of previously funded health, disability and other organisations for a 12-month period, pending the carrying out of a review of the public funding of national organisations in the health and disability sector. My department is currently engaging with the Department of Health in order to advance the review. The review is designed to ensure efficiency in the use of public money and avoidance of duplication, while providing appropriate support to organisations working in the sector. I can confirm that all organisations in receipt of bridging funding and a number of other organisations were invited to make submissions as part of the review process. It is intended to complete and publish the outcome of the review as soon as possible.
Do you want a supplementary, Senator?
Yes, thank you, Lasky here. Minister, thank you for that reply, but to be very honest about it, and I know it's a reply that was given to you to bring in here today, you have absolutely told me absolutely nothing that I didn't know. You just really repeated what I already told you myself. I wanted an answer to the question, will or will not funding be continued for these organisations? And Minister, you referred to an appeal process. Yes, they did put in an appeal. over nearly 12 months ago, and no decision has arrived from that appeal yet. Surely, be to goodness, it's time that the Department pulled out their finger and made a decision on the appeals and let these people know they're caught in a limbo, there's jobs at risk, and nobody's giving an answer. All I'm getting from you here at the bottom line is they were invited to make submissions as part of a review process, and it is intended to publish the outcome review as soon as possible. Where does that leave the organisations? They're neither here nor there. They do not know whether they're going to have funding or whether they're going to have to close their doors. So somebody needs to answer it, Minister, and answer it quickly. Thank you.
I could draw the Senator's attention to the 55 applications were approved for funding for the 2-year period, from the 1st of July 2014 to the 30th of June 2016. An increase of 8 million, which was an increase of 10% per annum compared to the previous scheme. Now, I will undertake the Senator's concerns, and I will take them back and I will discuss them with my officials, and we will try to provide, in what you consider, a more detailed answer. Okay.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Senator.